Sim Pickup Truck Plus. That should be talk. That should be talk. Holy cow. Joined by the 5'1" of the world, Jill Ciminillo. Apparently, it's going to be one of those nights. Sorry, folks. Jill has been traveling, and I have been working my butt off lately, and my brain is in about 17 different places at the moment. So I will do my best to stay.
This is where you got to do your namaste.
Namaste. My namaste thing. I am excited to announce I got an email today. I did go towing with new Silverado Duramax. I have, what do I got? I got 15 gigabytes of video to go through. So I'm going to ask for your patience. That'll come out this week, I promise. But I got drone footage. I got car-to-car footage. I got all sorts of stuff. So lots of stuff coming with that. But I want to, I want to kind of kick things off because we had a big week last week. We had the New York Auto Show, and that was after our live stream. So I went back in time. I was like, oh, we didn't talk about this, all kind of stuff. So I actually have a glass of whiskey tonight too, because like I said, my brain is just in 17 different places.
I'm drinking tea, if anybody cares, in this really cool mug that says, I still play with trucks.
I should have done that. The weather finally changed. It's supposed to be 88 degrees here tomorrow. Oh my God.
It was 70 in Chicago today.
Yeah, I'm like, my golf buddies are like, are we playing 36 or 54? I'm like, no, I have to work. We'll play 18. That's it. I'm not doing. I have to work. I have to work all day. I have to get things done. I have a box from Decked outside. I have some replacement parts for a cargo glide I got to install. I got all sorts of stuff going on. Doug has got tickets to the Denver Auto Show. Really?
When is the Denver Auto Show?
Yeah. So PNN is here. PNN. God, my brain's a million places. He's a vice president with Toyota, and we need to go to Michigan to visit him and play golf with him. That's what we should do. We should play golf with him because he has really cool courses. Anyways,
once I figure out, once I get more than just shoes, is what I'm hearing you say.
let me slow down. Let me think about things a little bit differently. The Denver Auto Show is next week.
Got it.
I will not be there, unfortunately. I'm choosing a family. My youngest son has his first night at junior high. It's a walkthrough event for the parents and the kid to see where the lockers are, stuff like that. And he's a little concerned about that situation. So I want to make sure I'm there for him. And I want to make sure that I know what's going on because he's got some, he's a great kid, but he's got some speech issues. We have to work with some speech people. I make sure I meet them, and I don't make sure I'm involved in that stuff. And then I'm driving on Wednesday. Instead of going to the show, I'm driving on Wednesday. I'm towing a car to my daughter in Montrose. So it's family first on that deal. So unfortunately, I won't be at the Denver Auto Show. But the Denver Auto Show, I think it opens. They do the same thing as they do in Chicago. They do a charity night. And they do the black tie kind of charity night. I think it opens on like a Friday and through the weekend. It goes for like a week or two. It's at Denver. I forget the name of the building. It's got a big blue bear on the outside. I always remember the big blue bear building.
Big blue bear.
Oh yeah, it's like 2 stories tall. It's a big blue bear that's like looking inside the building. It's fantastic.
Or creepy.
No, it's fun and it's down.
Or creepy.
No. It's part of the nature kind of science area that Denver's tried to build, convention center thing. This theme they have, it's a cool thing. I really enjoy it. I like that a lot better than in Denver Airport where they have the Bronco horse with the demon eyes. Have you? Yeah, that.
No, I haven't seen it, but I'll nod and smile.
So the decision. So what happened was this guy sculptor.
So this is a question.
Oh, okay. Different thing. Any decisions on the Woodward Dream Cruise? Currently, Vehicle Nanny, we are working with sponsors, and we're still working on sponsors. It comes down to money. It really does. I have learned that Swede's bill is really substantial, and so if I don't get some sponsors to help cover some of those costs and that kind of stuff, it doesn't make sense for me to drive out that far. I don't think so. I'm still working through all those avenues, trying to figure out. I'm trying to figure out the money. I'm just trying to be smart with my money this year. And so I'd love to have Swede there. And if I don't get them done on time, there's always next year. As it turns out, Woodward Dream Cruise happens every year.
I was going to say that almost feels like a Gone with the Wind thing, tomorrow's another day or,
Right. So, yeah, I mean, we've had I had a conversation with Holly, who happens to own Brother Trucks, which is a big aftermarket place for classic trucks, Chevy's truck stuff. And I had a conversation with that guy last week. I've had conversations with Tire Rack and Bridgestone and cat skin. We've had just lots of conversations trying to get some stuff done. It's just a matter of, again, to get some sponsors. Okay. I feel like that was on something else, but that's okay.
Sorry, I thought you were saying you started to say any decisions, and I was just like, oh, this must be the question you're referencing. So I was like trying to be helpful, and I derailed you. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean it's so funny with me. Like, we finally have a week of like 70, 75 today, and 88 tomorrow, and 82 Wednesday, and like 66 and 50s and 60s the weekend. And it's just all of a sudden I had to flick a switch, like go time, go time, go time, go time. And I have all these parts in the garage, and I have all the stuff I need to get done. And I was trying to get a mechanic in town to help me out, and all the mechanics were scared of YouTube, is what it turned out to be. So, and probably some liability issues too, probably built into that too. So I have to do it myself, which is fine. I don't have a problem doing it myself. I actually enjoy working on trucks. I just need to figure out where my jack stands are. I have some really heavy grade jack stands, and they're somewhere in the shed or behind the shed, and I'm not sure where they're at. And I have the floor jack, I have the tools, everything. I just need to, again, lay my butt on the ground and get some things done. Okay, so we should get the topic at hand. Kelly is bringing up the topic. So, and I'm going to go a little political tonight because we have an announcement coming to the EPA on Wednesday that we've been kind of beating around the bush on, and I need to talk about
this. Is this the question that you're going to start talking about?
I am. Okay. I'm going there. It is the 500-mile range for the Ram Rev. Is the truck that they did the unveil last week, Wednesday. My question for you guys is, what is the number that you need an EV truck to drive, as far as not with towing? We know towing is not going to be 500 miles, right, Kelly? Because we know that towing is going to it's going to knock down range quite a bit. And we know that gas, and it's not unfair to EVs, right? So diesel and gas, you lose range. Towing, it's a lot of weight behind the vehicle. So the question is, what do you guys think? I was just but I saw a friend on Twitter, Robbie DeGraff, who is with Auto Pacifica, and he said that they surveyed a bunch of people, and the people said the Ram truck, they would buy a Ram truck if it had 315 miles of range. That was the number. And I think somebody like Mercedes-Benz or BMW said, the CEO said 300 miles. The sweet spot with EVs is 300 miles. And I don't interesting. So Transit Montreal says 1,000 miles range or kilometers. Doug says if I drive across country not towing, I often get more than 500 miles. Yeah, I mean, if that Silverado diesel had a bigger tank on it, I'd probably get at least 600-700 miles of range. When I drove back from Jill's, I stopped more often to pee than I did for gas. I mean, diesel. I'm trying to make sure I say diesel. I keep saying gas, but diesel. So. Like how? I mean, I think it's a really honest question right now. If the Ram can deliver 500 miles of range and agreeably, that is going to be the luxury truck with lots of dope. It's going to be.
Well, it's going to be It's going to be a 2-wheel drive truck. It's not going to be an all-wheel drive truck. It's going to be a 2-wheel drive truck with a long-range battery that will and it will probably be one model that will deliver 500 miles of range. And then everything else will probably be closer to 300.
It was 300. It was a 320, 340. I think that's kind of the number. I mean, it's somewhere in that range, they said.
Yeah. And I mean, here's the thing. I think truck owners are a different breed of people in terms of what they need from a vehicle. And so asking, Jill on the street who lives in Chicago what she needs for range is not the same as asking, Tim on the street what he needs from range, who actually drives a truck and tows shit. So I think that it's a different they're not asked. I don't know that they're asking the right people is the end of that story, because if 300 miles is enough range, when is that enough range? Is it enough range when there's a EV charging station on every corner? Is it enough range right now? Is it enough range 10 years from now? Like, I personally don't think 300 miles is the magic number, because we've seen that 300 miles is actually significantly less than 300 miles, especially as it gets closer.
Yeah, I mean, and Kelly points out the weight, and Doug points out the weight. I mean, so I had to look this up, yeah. And I wasn't aware of this. It is, I may remember it. I think it's 8,500 pounds I want to say it's 8,500 pounds is definition of half ton or below. Once you get above like 8,500 pounds, you go 3/4 ton, maybe 9,000. It's in that. Excuse me, folks, my head's all over the place. It's in that range, right? The Hummer EV weighs 8,000 pounds, so it's still a half.
More. It weighs more than that.
No, it's 4.5 tons. It's 8,000.
Because I thought the battery itself weighs 300 pounds. I mean, right. I don't think it's 10,000 pounds, but I think it's more than 8.
Oh, excuse me, it's 9,000 pounds.
So, yeah, I'm like, it's more than 8.
Well, yeah. So, so let me let's do a half ton truck weight. What its classification? So the Hummer is 9,000 pounds, and this is interesting because so all right, a half tonner model falls typically under 8,500 pounds gross peak weight rating. A 3/4 ton or 2,500 range, 8,500 9,900 pounds. A 1 ton is likely 9,900 pounds or more. That's cars.com. And there is some legal legal stuff going as well. Yeah. So this is 6,000 pounds GVW. I don't know. There's some legal stuff there. So basically, the Hummer is a 3/4 ton truck. The Cybertruck. I had somebody argue with me about this quite a bit. The Cybertruck is going to be 3/4 ton because Tesla said so. Like I'm not quoting myself. Tesla literally said.
Tesla said so.
Yeah, they emailed the California board, whatever they told the numbers. It's gonna be 3/4 ton truck. But Ram has said that Ram Rev is 1,500 pounds. So I'm really curious. To your point, really curious what the weight is going to be and how far it's going to be able to go with that weight. And Elliot points out estimated 500 miles.
Estimated is the key word there.
And I'll speak to this. So the Lightning I got pretty close to not well. Lightning I got pretty close, not even close to the range.
Pretty close, not even close. No, I got not even close.
Not even close. The Lightning was. Yeah, not even close. The Hummer, I got pretty close. The Hummer, I was thinking off Hummer first in my head. Again, I need to drink a little more tonight. The Hummer, I wasn't even.
Or no, maybe have water.
The Hummer, I was really close to getting in the range. The Lightning, I was not even close at all. And so. Yeah.
The Hummer, what was your weather when you had the Hummer, and what was your weather when you had the Ford?
Well, luckily it was this winter I had both trucks and it was terrible both times. The freaking winter's been terrible. No, I mean, I would say the weather was it was probably within 10, 15 degrees both. Although the overnight lows for the Hummer were really low because I froze the
Oh, I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, I froze it. So unfortunately. So I don't know. It's interesting. I can't get the range. Although I will say I drove to Torrington, Wyoming for family. We had an Easter, big family, 40 people there. We talked, you want to talk about EVs. We talked about EVs and nuclear power and electrical grids. And I have a cousin who works for BLM and, we had a really interesting conversation. But I got 27 miles per gallon driving a Duramax 45 minutes up there to Torrington. I'm sorry, but I don't, people tell me diesel costs more and all kind of stuff. But when I see 27 miles per gallon on my dash and I'm driving a full-size truck, my wife's Trailblazer gets 27 miles per gallon on average. She gets she gets about 32 highway, but she doesn't drive highway very often. So, I mean, her little Trailblazer, which weighs half the weight of the truck and has aerodynamic profile much better, gets same fuel economy that diesel. Yeah, I don't know. But so, I think that's a really interesting question. So the question is, that happens a lot in our conversations. Does mile per gallon matter or does range matter?
I think with an electric truck, I think it's the range that matters, especially with the lack of infrastructure right now. I mean, I keep going back to driving to Indianapolis. You could talk about, going to Wyoming. And if you have to go, more than 170 miles before you will hit a charging station, and it's 18 degrees and you're only going to get like 167 miles of range, you're not going to make it.
Yeah, I do think it's interesting because remember when Ram came out with the Eco Diesel and their advertising campaign was you can drive like across Texas without getting any fuel. I mean, and that was a big point. And I've done videos and I show the screen on the video, right? So I do the video and I show the screen. You've done the same thing. You take your phone, show whatever the mile per gallon is going to be, and then all of a sudden people are going, "Oh, your range says what?" I don't care about range on the computer because that's just a math calculation based on your current driving habits divided by how many gallons of gas. I mean, it doesn't really matter. But I have been in conversations with people now on Facebook who are all about range because the mind is transitioning from mile per gallon to range because now we have EVs that are not talking about mile per gallon, talking about range. And
Yeah.
so wouldn't you have the same range conversation with a gas you would EV?
No. No, you would
But
not
I mean,
have the same range conversations with gas because there is no range anxiety.
but you
Like
can
there is
see
a
what
gas station on every corner. You
right.
can get gas, you don't have to worry about it. But like electric, like you've got to worry about that. There's anxiety. So range matters more with an EV than it does with a gasoline vehicle or a diesel vehicle. Now, it's important, I think, with gas or diesel, the fuel economy is important because then that shows that you're winning your money back, you're making money,
Yeah,
whatever
your
it
cost
is.
per
You made a
mile is
good
much better versus gas. Yeah.
yeah, you made a good choice. But I think range is the EV conversation. But I think with trucks, I can see, as I've seen in some of the comments where people are talking about, I went 700 miles. Dougie Doo says in his 218 Tundra on a tank of gas. So, I find it interesting, that I think truck people talk differently than non-truck people. And again, I think that a lot of the EV folks are asking the wrong people the wrong questions.
I think so too. Although I will say I think that the next generation coming up, I don't think it's me or it's the generation above me. I think the younger generation is talking more about range than they have read before. But they're talking about trucks in different ways. Like I got yelled at on Facebook today by some people because they were like, this guy he's a fan of the channel, and I'm not calling him out, but he was like, well, what are you guys doing to clean your trucks? I have these swirls on my paint and it's really bugging me. And I was like, for crying out loud, it's a truck. It needs mud on the tires. And then I got hate mail like, well, because trucks are now more expensive, well, obviously they're luxury vehicles. So we need to make sure we go ahead and wax those down and put the ceramic coating on them and do this, do that. And I'm just like, the only time I wash my Silverado is when I have to be on camera. Like there is a time I don't give.
Even then, you should probably not wash it because that adds
Right.
character. There should be mud on the tires.
I don't care at all about how clean my truck is. I do. I mean,
Yeah.
I do care at times when the sensors don't work. Right? Now you go out with a spray bottle and clean the sensors off. So
oh no, I go like this.
You do that too, right? I mean, the sensors
or
drive
I
me
like
nuts.
take the bottom of my t-shirt and I'm like,
right. But I mean, other than that, I don't wash my truck I don't care. It's a truck. It's a tool for a job. And people are like, they were mad at me. I had to like almost take notifications off because I was getting hate. I was like, all right, fine. Obviously, I got too much gray in my beard. Don't know what I'm talking about because there are now. Somebody told me that truck detailing has become a new growing business model for many car wash because people get these Denali Ultimates or these Ford 50 Platinums and they want them detailed and looking amazing. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, I never thought about that. Yeah, I don't know. And the thing, the truck guys too. The thing that is getting pointed out here in the last couple of years is that yes, as Kristen Vandervay Shaw, your teammate says, gas stations are easy to get to, chargers not so much, but also chargers with capability to have a trailer with them are really extremely rare.
yeah,
Like even more rare. Yeah. So I don't know. It's I don't know. Yeah. Whoa. What did Dougie say? Dougie said some people pay $200 for a detail job. Oh my.
no.
Why?
So in Chicago, by the way, you can go to like they have hand washes. They don't have like the car wash things per se necessarily in the city. So you go to one of these hand washes and it's not crazy expensive and they do an amazing job. I remember I took this is going back a couple of years, probably like 2008. So the prices are not the same anymore, but 2008 I took a Toyota FJ Cruiser off-road and literally it was like Smurf blue and I brought it back into the city and it was like mud brown because I got stuck in a mud puddle and flung mud up into the air like probably like 50 feet. And there was mud in every crevice, every surface. Like all you could see was like the front. And I remember getting onto the highway and like flat, like there was mud flying off the car onto the people behind me, and I felt so bad, but there was nothing I could do. And but I took it to a detailer in Chicago, or one of those hand car washes, and they charged me $10 and did an amazing job, and like literally like got the mud out of every crevice. Like I pulled in and they looked at me like, oh lady, you gotta be kidding me. But they were so like they thought it was a cool car, so they humored me, and they did an amazing job of like getting all of the mud out. I feel like I gave them a very large tip. It was definitely more than what the car wash was worth. But yeah, that's crazy.
Car washes. I mean, I have a situation where I park the cars on rocks, which I've learned has get them dirty really fast, really dirty. And so, yeah, I probably spend 60 to $100 a month just on car washes for some press loans. I've gotten better. When they drop the press loan off, I try to do my exterior walk around. So like I had the Honda HRV and I had a Ford Bronco Sasquatch. Or no, I had something else that week. Anyways, I knew the storm was coming through, so I took them both out. Like right before the storm was coming through, I videoed the exterior on both of them because I knew it was just gonna get destroyed on the exterior. And I could, and I'm talking like big mud on the side and dirt patches, and you can't see through the windows. So it's so dirty. And I have my power washer at the house, and I tend to, if it's a good summer day, I will go out there and just wash it myself because it's $15 anytime I go to these touchless car washes anymore. I've said this before on the channel. I'll say it again. If you want a business plan that makes lots of money in the future, invest in car washes, because as cars get more sensors, more radars, more sonar, more
specialized paint.
More specialized
paint you cannot take through a regular car wash.
Yeah, you will have. Yeah. It is just crazy. I don't know. It's, oh my gosh. Whoa. 2Explorer Video says a basic wash and rinse is about $25 to $35. One gets interior detail, engine wash, and full wash and wax. 150. It sounds about right. Whew. My goodness. I gotta bring up this comment. So I gotta tell you a funny story, Joe. I was sitting with my boys talking.
Let me sit back for a second.
I was sitting with the boys talking about something, and they are in elementary school, middle school now. And I said, they were talking about line spacing with their letters and creating sentences with spacing between words, and making sure that you have spaces and you write things out right. And I said, when I was in elementary school, I did not write things out really well. In elementary school, they wanted first name, last initial, and a period. So they want, whatever. So they'd say Jill C. period. That's what they wanted in elementary school. So I would write Tim E., but I put them together. So I was called Time for, I don't know, a year and a half.
I'm surprised you weren't called Timmy.
I was called Timmy a few times too. But so this guy says, Time, when do you think, because it just reminded me of the story. When do you think more Chevy 1500 Duramax diesels, dealerships right now, hard to get? I think right now we're in a place where it's order only. Like, I hate to say it, but when I know everybody in the comment stream will have a different opinion. People will tell me they drive by the Chevy dealership, they see lots of Chevys. They drive by a Ford dealership, lots of Fords. In my area, you better damn well order it, because none of the lots still have any inventory at all. I think I asked Jill one of these times. Again, when you go to Indiana, I need you to play swivel head a little bit and see, if you drive by a dealership, just see what's on the lot, because
there are no dealerships on that
route. Okay, yeah. I go down to Fort Collins and I see some of the dealerships down there, and I'm always like, I'm kind of looking around what they have. Like I was I saw a Porsche dealership, and a bunch of VWs out front, right? I mean, just didn't have anything. I mean, so everywhere you go is a little bit differently, but I would just order something, and don't be afraid to order something. Don't be afraid to walk in and order something. Time, not Tim. Sorry, no, it was great. Roy's place. You gave me a great segue into something.
Tim wanted to tell a story.
Yes. Yeah. Go to a dealership. Tell them you want to buy something, and dealership's gonna try to tell you that there's something in a lot. They're gonna try to give you something in today. They're gonna try to force you to buy something. Hold your ground.
Yep, because the longer it sits on their lot, the longer they are like paying fees on it. And so
I've walked to a dealership.
Get what you want.
Yeah, I walk to the dealership and say, I want, I'll walk with a sticker or something. I'll say, I want this just like this. And they'll say, I found one comparable that's got blue instead of black. Or I found one that's got, doesn't have that feature, has this feature, whatever. Do you want to just get that one? And no, hold your ground.
I mean, unless you really can compromise and you need a vehicle right now.
You need
But
a
if
vehicle
you
right
want
now,
that
yeah.
feature, hold it.
Hold your ground. Yeah, and always try different dealerships. I've had a few people that tell. I had one guy on the comments on pickuptrucktalk.com who said that his dealership told him that some recall was not a recall. And it was going to be $3,000 to get it fixed. Yada, yada, yada. So I sent him the NHTSA recall number, and I said, try a different dealership. Walked into the dealership. Dealership goes, oh, we'll be done in 20 minutes. You don't pay $1. Like, be a smart consumer. If a dealership tells you something like that, walk away. Email us or Google it or get something and be a smart consumer. There are in our business and our YouTube channel as well, in YouTube world, especially right now, there are good YouTube channels. There are good businesses. There's not good businesses. Jill and I both know journalists, and they're really good journalists and really, well, not good journalists. We know them. So every business is like that. Just because dealership is there doesn't mean that they are a great dealership. Shop around.
Yeah.
Look at your Yelp reviews or whatever you want to look at, Google reviews, whatever the deal is. But shop around. So I definitely think that's definitely something. Yeah, he didn't. Their name is Timmy. Yeah. My kids were laughing. They were laughing about that. Well, the other thing that happened when I grew up was that you remember South Park came out and Timmy was a little wheelchair kind of guy. I actually got a figurine in my closet somewhere of Timmy, the wheelchair guy. Anyways, if you watch South Park. Yeah. Moving along. Time to move along.
Okay, so before we leave the 500-mile range conversation,
please take the floor from me. I'm all over the place.
You really are kind of like this, but I mean, I'm actually going to ask you a question that you may or may not have an answer for, but you may have better insight. So I do a podcast with Tom Appel earlier in the day, and it's the Car Stuff podcast. And we were actually talking about the Ram with the 500-mile range. And we were talking about the potential for a range extender. And we were kind of talking about the idea of what that's going to cost, like how super expensive or not expensive do you think that's going to be? And what is the range? Like, what do you think the range extender is going to be? And how much range do you think it will add? And, will it add it to the 500-mile of range, or will it add it to like the 300-mile of range to get you to 500? Like, what are your thoughts on the range extender? And like, so now I'm all over the place. So one, what do you think it's going to cost? Two, what do you think it's going to be powered by an engine? Do you think it's going to be like, what engine? Will it be the Hurricane? Yeah, those are the two primary questions. That's where I'm going.
I would say it's 10 grand more. And the only reason I put that number out there is if you look at the plug-in hybrid versions of SUVs versus regular gas engines, it's 10 grand more.
Okay.
So I think it's going to be a price delta between 10, maybe even more than 10, depending on the size of the battery. I think it's going to add 100 miles. And I think that because of the physics of the vehicle, a truck is an aerodynamic profile of a brick, right? I mean, it's not a very aerodynamic vehicle. So I think it's going to add maybe 100 miles of range. I think it's probably the most overblown thing that I've ever heard. And I am very pessimistic about plug-in hybrids as well, from the fact that the weight issue.
But this would not be a plug-in hybrid.
What I want to say is when you add a gas, so I think it's going to be a gas engine. I think it'll be a variant of a Hurricane, because I think the Hurricane I'm shocked the Hurricane's not out more. I love straight inline engines. I'm a big fan of them. I'm shocked the Hurricane's not in the Ram. I'm shocked it's in the Jeep. I'm shocked that I don't know why they're holding back a little bit on this. I think it'll be a version of Hurricane engine. I don't think it's good. So when you do that, when you do a small generator kind of motor and you add a range extender, I know it's different than a plug-in hybrid. We've had those conversations. You have laid out what the differences are. I get it. But I just feel like it's going to be more complex, more maintenance, and you have the additional weight now of a battery plus engine. And it's going to reduce payload and towing capacity because you're not increasing the frame stiffness or the GVWR. all you're doing is adding more weight to the vehicle instead of dropping. So, like for example, we've talked about the Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xe. The payload drops like 400 pounds. The towing drops because you add this battery into it. So to me, it's an issue of money, 10 grand more easily. Physics, it's going to be less range, less payload, less towing, and you get some more range. I think it's going to be. I think the reason why Ram has teased it is to create some interest, but also in that I don't think it's possible. Like I don't think a plug-in hybrid truck is possible. I don't think a range extender truck is possible unless we figure out a way to package a battery in a more efficient cylinder or a form that weighs less that becomes more efficient. I don't think it's possible.
Okay, I think it's possible. But I mean, the questions, that still remain, and I mean, you brought up a very good point about like towing and payload. But like, if you can tow 9,000 pounds, does it matter that with the range extender you can only tow 8,600 pounds? Like, is that I don't know. Is that a huge difference?
I think it's less. It's more about payload because I have I think I maybe have taught you over the years is that payload matters more for towing than towing matters, right? So if you can tow 13,000 pounds, we have payload of 500 pounds. That's me in the cabin with maybe my dog, and that's it, right? I mean, so
and a beer
cooler. I mean, I mean that's it, right? So I mean, it's like to me, you can make these. So the max towing and for example, the max towing on the Silverado, I just got done towing today. I was looking at this stuff. Was 13,000 pounds, but payload 1,600 pounds. So if you take 13,000 pounds, take 10% off of that because the tongue weight of whatever vehicle you're doing, that's 1,300 pounds minus 1,600 pounds. That leaves 300 pounds up in the cabin. So to me, the 13,000 pound number is fiction. It's fiction. It's not actually possible.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, I think
the range extended Ram is fiction.
Yes.
It's not going to happen.
I don't think it's. I just don't.
And if it does happen, only I'm going to be able to drive it because I don't weigh very much.
Right. It's you
and I can't bring any of my friends or any of my stuff with me.
Right. It's just you and a feather and your cell phone. Right. That's all you get to have. We were talking to my cousins about this. Like we were talking about electric trucks, and I said my issue with electric trucks, and there's an announcement from the Biden administration, which I'm waiting to hear more details because so far it doesn't sound very good. It's forced adoption, which I hate forced adoption. But I said, hydrogen. I'm being a dead horse with this. I know we talk about it all the time, but I'm like, it just makes more. Every time I drive an electric truck, I think to myself, this thing isn't going to work. We need to get hydrogen. That's my philosophy. And the U.S. government just authorized the purchase of hundreds of thousands of Chevy Colorado hydrogen fuel cell trucks, which we need to write that up, by the way.
You're like, because I've been scattered, I completely forgot.
By the way, yeah. So I mean, think about U.S. government. So you get a bunch of guys or women or whatever, military personnel. They get into this Colorado. They drive in the middle of Montana, North Dakota, wherever, and they have power on board because they have EV, hydrogen, and they can refuel within 10 minutes. And they can bring in a oil tanker truck that has hydrogen inside of it and refuel those. They don't have to add charging stations and solar panels and da da da. And I just, like for example, Rebel Rally does an electric truck variant. You know how they power those?
Yes.
Hydrogen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they bring in a big semi. The
so,
power. Yep.
So they use hydrogen there to power the EVs in a desert.
Yep.
And I'm like, just get rid of the EV aspect. You can just go hydrogen. Like it's just, I don't know. I know that I know I have friends in the EV world that think I'm just a loony. It's fuel cells. Who cares? But like, I think the more I drive electric vehicles, the more I'm convinced this is not the future. The more I'm convinced that electrification is a future, because like my cousins are very conservative people, and I'm kind of in the middle anymore. I think they all need to go like to change on anymore. I'm just so bitter these days. But my viewpoint is like we all want clean air. We all want clean water. There's not a person on this planet that doesn't want clean air and clean water. We can get there electricity, we can make it cleaner. We can get there. We can use nuclear. They're building a nuclear plant in Wyoming. I'm very curious about. We can get there. Those situations. We can get to that place where it's cleaner energy. We can get there. It's going to take us 100 years to get there. It's going to take us 100 years to get there, probably. Building nuclear plants, infrastructure, and all this kind of stuff happening. But we don't have to have one size fits all. We can get there a myriad of different ways. We have the e-fuels, synthetic fuels from Porsche building right now. We have hydrogen as an option. We have electric vehicles as an option. I think it's a one size and above fits all scenario. Let's not drill down on just one thing. Let's do it all.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to have to pick a focus eventually, but I've been on board with hydrogen. I do remember many, many moons ago, Chevrolet did this experiment with the Equinox where they put a hydrogen fuel cells in the Equinox. And they did a program where they gave them to real people and let them test it. And I remember they did a big thing. They started it and then it never heard about it again. And it was something like it had the word driveway in it. And I don't know. I just the one problem you're going to have with hydrogen is creating hydrogen is really super expensive. I think the infrastructure is going to be easier to build out because literally you can just drop a tank in the ground like you would, at a gas station. You just replace one of your fuel pumps or your fuel tanks with hydrogen.
Gas, you have diesel, you have hydrogen. You create hydrogen from natural gas. There's natural gas lines running all across the country.
It's still, I think it's a very expensive process. Now, with time, I think you could bring that cost down and you could make it less expensive. But no, I've thought for a long time that hydrogen is a better solution.
Let me get to a couple comments because this is something that has bothered me, and I'm not going to call out Mike here. Well, I'm just going to show his comment.
You just called him out,
probably. But I'm confused by this. I've seen this comment on Facebook and on Twitter. There's a thought that Toyota laid off CEO Akio due to correctly assuming hydrogen would work out better. There's a lot of people that think that Akio resigned because he wasn't doing a good job, and I don't understand that. Akio had been in the business for years and years. And now he's a chairman of Toyota. He's even more powerful position than they had been before. And people have praised him within Toyota. But I've seen people talk about him stepping aside as being proof of they have failed. And I'm just mystified by this idea. And so I'm sorry, Mike, but Akio did great for a long period of time. I'm still mystified by that setup, by that idea that he has failed. And, I don't know. That kind of stuff.
And since we're picking on Mike, I'm bringing up this comment because, he's absolutely right. Hydrogen fuel cell cars are EVs. So I probably said something more incorrect or said something incorrectly. I just mean using hydrogen to power the EV rather than having to plug it in somewhere or, if you go to in Chicago, the Electrify America station by me is in a bank parking lot. And they literally had to take up 8 parking spaces with the power cell or whatever it is that they use to generate the electricity for the four charging stations that they put in. But every electric charging station has to have the big infrastructure in play that is the draw on the grid. And people who are concerned about the blackouts and the grid stress and all of that, again, I think powering an electric car that the only waste is water,
right? Yeah.
Hydrogen is just.
Yeah, my cousin and I were talking about it. He works at BLM, and he's like, he goes, we keep getting different directions with the administration. Do this, do that. We don't know how to get there. He goes, why aren't we doing more hydrogen stuff? We have natural gas all over the place. Emits water vapor. It gets all those goals. It meets all those goals we want. Globally, hydrogen is a big deal in Japan and China and different places. And so I don't know. I feel like the automotive press and a lot of people make such a massive deal about EVs. And then I go to talk to them and they're like, well, they're the best things ever. And I'm like, they're kind of bad, actually. They don't really work. Well, you're just being dumb. I'm like,
Well, I tell
well,
you that on a daily basis, Tim. I mean, come
right.
on.
I mean, yeah, right. But I'm like, I have real concerns. I mean, and here's the thing. Call me whatever you want to call me, and I know you will, but I have reservations on 2 different EVs. Like we've been trying to buy my wife one, but the damn things are so expensive they keep going up in price. And they're not getting cheaper. Yeah. The losses are
The
too high.
Cybertruck has entered the conversation.
Oh yeah, see, it's fully beat. No, the losses. I mean, we're getting better in that stuff. The federal government's doing.
But they're saying the losses are too high for fuel cells.
Yeah.
So it's an economic no-go.
I mean, that's getting better and better. I mean, I don't know. Toyota's building Kenworth semis, and I said, look, I've thought for a long period of time that who cares how many consumers buy EVs? I don't give a rat's butt about how many consumers get EVs. I don't care. I really don't care. When commercial businesses start buying one or the other, that's what really matters. Toyota's building Kenworth hydrogen fuel cell semis. There's Mack Trucks is doing some EV hydrogen stuff. There's another big brand in Northwest doing both of them. When commercial businesses decide one way or the other, that's going to make a difference. So, for example, if you're in Kentucky, driving from Kentucky to Denver, dropping off potato chips, and you're driving a hydrogen fuel cell truck, guess what happens on I-80 between Kansas and Kentucky and Denver? Hydrogen fuel cell stations are going in ding, ding, ding every so often, right? Because, a commercial operation, the money there is so much bigger. And so I just,
you see a lot of cornfields, but I like your answer better.
Yeah, right. But my cousin pointed out, he goes, when we went from VHS to CD, it wasn't like all of a sudden CD took over overnight. It wasn't all of a sudden that the government said CDs is the way to go. You're going to give money to buy some more CDs. It was the fact that CDs proved to be a better technology than VHS was. You look at CDs versus Laserdisc. That didn't work out. Who has Laserdisc anymore, right? So I want technology to be the winner. Let technology be the winner, not that. Okay. How are you enjoying the Baby Duramax? Yes, love it. Would you buy that setup again? Yeah, I actually would. I think the High Country is a sweet spot there for luxury interior without spending $90,000. Do you miss Toyota at all? I actually don't.
You're like, no, not even a little bit.
I mean, I wanted to love it so badly. I know the Toyota chief engineer is so mad at me right now, and I'm sorry, but I have to be honest with you guys. It wasn't a great experience, and my resale value wasn't that much better than the Ford. And I know it was different marketplaces, different time period. I get all that stuff, and I had a 2013 Tundra. I really liked 2013 Tundra. I really enjoyed the 2013 Tundra. You and I we had a Platinum in Florida that you and I talked about that was really good. We actually both liked that. And so it was like, man. We have a super chat. Oh, a super chat. Thank you for your $5 super chat. Saw your Range Rover Sport review. You and 1,300 other people. Darn guys, watch this up. Love the Land Rover and the Defender lineup, having owned one. Saw you loved it. So why the hate? Reliability is improved. I loved it. The only thing I didn't like about that vehicle is I couldn't get into it. This is something that Jill and I talked about the Tacoma, and I took you want to talk? I had a field full of bull coming my way with the Tacoma, right? And I had a friend reach out to me and he goes, "How do you get in the Range Rover?" I rented one and it was really hard to get into. And I was like, man, I'm really having a problem with this Range Rover. And so in the video, I showed off my belly on camera, and I took the camera like you did. I put it against the passenger window. I said, I have this much entrance room. And I love the Range Rover. The Bill is right. And the Bill, he's absolutely right. I love the vehicle. I think I'd get so mad about getting in or out, and I love the shape of it. That's my problem, right? I love the design, the Range Rover Sport. Yeah. I love the shape of it, but I really was like, God, I'm tired of getting this thing. And I drove that thing. Luckily, I didn't put gas in it. Luckily, I got good fuel economy because I know premium. It was going to be premium. It was going to be a pretty dollar at the gas station. I used up the tank they gave me, but I drove 500 miles in that thing. I drove all the place that thing. I love that thing, but I just was like, man, I'm tired of getting in and out of this thing.
Well, and so I had it as well, and I didn't do a video on it. But the one thing, remember last week's Jill rant?
Yeah.
The wireless charger in the Range Rover Sport is literally the worst charger I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
I was 45 minutes into my drive going to Indianapolis, and it shut down my phone, and like, because I was using Apple CarPlay to get directions. I like to see where the traffic is, so I was connected to Apple CarPlay. I had my phone in the wireless charger, and I was talking to my mother-in-law on the phone, and like 45 minutes it shut my phone off, disconnected the system while I was talking to my mother-in-law, who thought I was in a car accident, and then she tried to call me back and couldn't get me because my phone was off.
Right.
But that was like literally the worst wireless charger I've ever experienced in my life.
Yeah, I actually didn't use it.
I love the car.
It went like underneath the radio, that I'm gonna call it radio, old school infotainment system. It went below that screen, and like I think that
the screen was hot too, and so it was just blowing hot air on your phone.
It was
and then, like there needed to be like an air conditioning fan or something that was blowing cold air under there. But like Tim, I also really like the Range Rover Support, but it's just one of those things where it's like, come on.
Yeah, it was almost I wish I screwed up. I wish I would have done footage at night, because that thing looks badass at night. It just looks like, I mean, I'm like, I locked the vehicle and I was like, man, downtown LA, downtown Chicago, downtown Detroit, driving around at night with this thing, it looks like it's just a cool looking vehicle, and I loved it. But the video, I think I was very kind to the video. Well, I had to point out, I was like, man, I can't get in and out of it, and the older I get, the more entry exit is a big deal for me. I'm just not very flexible as a person, and Jill knows this. I'm not very flexible as a person, and so I want to be able to get in and out. That's why I love full size trucks, because I can get in and out very easily. And so I'm very cautious about that. In Tacoma, I'm very concerned. If you've been following channel, I do a mid-sized truck thing with my friend Dave at All Train Nation on Saturday mornings, because I'm a sucker for punishment. And I've been talking a lot about Tacoma there, and I would tell you that I am concerned. I like what Toyota does, and I like their vehicles, but after the Tundra came out and my issues with that, and Tacoma banging my head against the ceiling with that truck, I'm like, oh please, I want to buy the Tacoma. I want to like the Tacoma. I want to be that Tacoma fan, and I'm like, dear Lord, please.
Well, to that end, you created a Tacoma wish list.
I did.
You know what? I will post the link to the story in the comment stream.
Right,
so people should read it.
And I think number one, the wish list was entry exit. Like I love the shape of the Tacoma. Just give me 2 more inches or 3 more inches. I don't need 25 feet more. I just need a little bit more headroom. I don't want to duck and dive. And I know people like get mad at me, and they're like, "Well, I don't do my truck for that. I own Tacomas." And I'm like, "All right, fine, I get it." But I'm not the only person. And then I don't want to sit on the floor. Tall guys do this. They sit on the floor, put the legs out, like sitting in the bathtub. Like, I just want a good seat. I have a neighbor who has like a 2000 Tacoma, drives by, and it's perfect. The cab height is perfect. The seat is perfect. It's like, and I'm sorry, but those little details really get to me. All right, Jill, here's a question for you. I'm going to send it to Jill because I've talked enough tonight. But looking at Jeep Compass and Hyundai Tucson, I test drove both, liked both of them. What are your thoughts on them?
Okay, the quick answer, Hyundai Tucson.
I agree.
So the Hyundai Tucson and the Hyundai Santa Cruz are built on similar platforms and have a lot of like the same interior amenities and features. And having spent 10 days, 10 hours each day in the seats of the Hyundai Santa Cruz, I can tell you they are some of the most comfortable seats I've ever sat in. And I like the turbo engine in the Tucson better than any powertrain you'll see in the Compass. Plus you have, I feel like a lot more up-level amenities available in the Tucson than you do in the Compass. And it's been a while since I've driven the Compass, but I remember I did a review on it, and I was having issues with the adaptive systems, the safety systems, and it was like squawking at me all the time, and I couldn't, like, even when I was trying to draw back the sensitivity of these systems, like it still was yelling at me, like for city driving when people are cutting you off and you have to like speed up in order to pass it. Like it was doing crazy things. And I didn't not like, yes, I'm using a double negative there. So I didn't not like the Jeep Compass. But I really, really like the Hyundai Tucson.
I think Hyundai is one of those brands that is forgotten about in the automotive media. That is just unfortunate. They're the best warranty in the business. Best warranty, hands down. The vehicles just do well. They do everything. They do all the little things well. The powertrains are fine. I mean, I did nothing. I'm not going to say Hyundai builds amazing powertrains. They're good. They're on par. They're good for everything else. The design is pretty good. Everything they do is pretty good. Nothing. The thing with Hyundai is nothing they do, in my opinion, is like, oh my god, it's the Hummer. Whoa, look at this thing. Oh my gosh. They just do all the little things really well, and consumers don't seem like they pay attention to them. And like, yeah, Santa Cruz. Santa Cruz is a great example. Santa Cruz is done really well, but it's just such a niche brand. They don't build enough of them.
Yeah. And so, Kevin said he drove both the Tucson and the Santa Cruz and liked the Tucson more. So I like the Tucson more? I love the Santa Cruz. Like, again, spent so much time with the Santa Cruz. Right. And if you like the Tucson more than the Santa Cruz, then I would have to imagine that you will like that way more than the Jeep Compass.
Yeah, and I have a Hyundai Tucson video that's sitting in drafts that I just need to publish. So look for that coming out soon. There's your teaser. Yeah, I need to figure out my thumbnail title. I just like what Hyundai has done with the Tucson, and I think they have a great brand, great warranty, good powertrains, good reliability. We've done reliability studies on them. Yeah, good reliability.
I think, everything, like from the Tucson, the Palisade, I just recently drove the Ioniq 6, which it's a car, so you don't see the review here. But I haven't driven a vehicle from Hyundai recently that I haven't really, really liked. I think that the previous generation Sonata was just kind of like, like I did not like it, but I didn't understand, like it didn't sing to me. Right. I would say that was probably the last vehicle from Hyundai, and so this was like 2014. Maybe, I think that was the last vehicle I drove from them that I was like, what were they thinking here? What were they thinking?
So, but I mean, hey, we got one of the topics of the subject. We have to get two. We got two left. Two. The
last two are kind of related because you want to talk about the New York Auto Show,
right? But the Kona.
Yes. So speaking of
the Kona is. I tell people. So people tell me that they're like, I want a unique, compact SUV that has good warranty and good fuel economy. I'm like, Kona.
Yep.
Kona. Just go.
Comes with all-wheel drive.
Comes with all-wheel drive, and it's cheap and it's unique and it's not. It's not weird, unique like Nissan Juke, not Nissan Juke, but it is nice. It's a nice vehicle. Wrangler's coming out, new Wrangler 24 Wrangler. Reliability hopefully better. What's interesting in the Wrangler is they literally said we made Bluetooth better, and I was thinking about Jill because every time Jill does a vehicle, she calls her husband and checks with Bluetooth, and they literally said, "Hey, we made the seats more comfortable to ride in, and we made more improvements there, and it's." Guess what? We improved the Bluetooth. You can talk to people with the doors off.
So weirdly, one of the best vehicles I've ever driven with Bluetooth was a Ford Mustang convertible with the top down.
Really?
Weirdly. Yeah. So if they took a page out of Ford's book, then Jeep is, on the right track.
But that makes a difference, right? I mean, whether you can. So people always talk about powertrains and design things, changes like that. And it's like, no, they made those improvements that people matter. Like, I think journalists, we tend to look at the bright lights. And I'm like, hey, the seats are more comfortable. Hey, you know what I mean? I mean, it's not as loud. I mean, that's the thing. So Nabil is back. Another $5 donation. Oh my gosh, Nabil. This is awesome. I've driven a ton of new vehicles. Two worst engines I've ever driven were the base engine of 21 Cherokee. I agree. The Tiger Shark, they called it, the whatever the.
Oh, I called that the Poodle Dolphin. That's how I felt about that engine.
And the 5.3 and a 22 Suburban. Yes, the 5.3 in the Suburban can't get out of its way. Worst engines. Ooh. I think I have such a hard time with compact SUVs. For example, I have the Honda HRV hybrid outside. I think it's hybrid. I can double check that one more time.
No, the HRV, not a hybrid. I don't think
not a hybrid. I don't know why I have in my head a hybrid. I think in the video I didn't say hybrid. 158 horsepower. It was like Flintstones for me. I was putting my foot outside trying to get things go faster. Like it just was not working good for me. I did not like that powertrain at all. CVTs always get the racket from most journalists because they're just not very good. Nissan is as somebody said, is a big offender of some pretty lackluster powertrains. What do you think, Jill? I mean,
so I've actually some of the engines that really irk me, and not all turbocharged engines these days are bad. A lot of them are really good, but I've had problems recently with turbo engines from German automakers with turbo lag. Audi and Mercedes specifically, with turbo lag and the stupid auto stop start engine. So in my old place, I had to park off of an alley, and then I would have to come off of a side road onto a main road, and I would have to make a left turn into traffic. And so like I would stop, and if I forgot to turn the stupid stop start thing off, like the engine would shut down, and then I would go, and the engine would have to turn back on, and then there was this turbo lag that would be like, oh, okay, now I'm going. And so and I can't remember specifically which engines those were, but I feel like it was maybe the Audi Q3 that I was driving, and something from Mercedes that I was just like, nope, this is not making me feel good. But the Poodle Dolphin engine, I will 100% agree, that was a pretty miserable powertrain. I'm trying to think of something else recently that I was driving that it was just like, you like push your foot down and you're like, nothing. But yeah, no, I turbo engines with turbo lag drive me nuts.
I mean, I drove the 2.7 Colorado and I said, I want sport mode. I just felt like it was slow. I mean, and maybe that's just me at the situation I was in, whatever. I need to drive. So you go to an event and you drive it for, people always talk about that stuff. You drive for like 3 hours. You get this really weird initial taste of it. Then you get it for a week. Then you're like, oh, I did that well, or I did not do that well, right? It's like you because you live with it for a while. I mean, the problem with the drive events is you get there and the lights are flat. It's like going to Hollywood red carpet, right? Lights are flashing, marketing's going, things were there, talking to people, all stuff's going on. Then you come home and you drive for a week at your house. You're like, oh, wow. I see this whole thing in either a different light or the same light. I mean, it confirms what you're thinking, or it just completely goes, wait, I remember driving a Suburban, and I remember feeling like, that stinky toy, that dog stinky toy? I felt like my rear end was catching up to me as it made a turn.
Oh, yeah.
I felt like the rear, it just was so underpowered and so much body roll and everything. I was like, oh my goodness. But if I drove that at the media event, I'd be like, oh, this is the best thing ever. It's going to be fantastic.
Well,
and then
because we do a lot of first drives on the website, and we do some first, like the 5 good things, 5 bad things are usually first drives. And, anybody who's giving you a first drive review, it's not just us. You really have to take that with a grain of salt, because at the event themselves, the automakers have very carefully curated the spec of the vehicle that you're driving, as well as the route that you are driving on. They're finding roads that complement the vehicle that you are driving. So, I mean, they're not going to take, the Poodle Dolphin engine and put it, on a whole bunch of twisty bits in elevation. They're gonna put it in like slower neighborhoody city kind of situations, where you will experience the vehicle in its best possible light. It's not until you get it home for the week that I feel like a lot of the things that are bothersome come to light.
Yeah. You just don't notice them. Like somebody asked me the build quality of the Colorado at the press launch. That's a bad question because those vehicles are gone over white glove. Like I can't tell you how many Tundras I've seen out there where they have my Tundra had a gap with wet stripping and the rear window, and every Tundra I've seen has a gap with wet stripping except for the press vehicle Tundras. They have no gap, and I'm like, it just because they go over every detail on these things, it just doesn't. It's hard to talk about build quality because of that. It's hard to talk about some of that stuff because of that. Just keep that. We talk about this all the time. Keep that in mind. It's one of those things. All right, one more thing from DeBill. We're gonna wrap this up. He is fired up tonight. Fave engines were a 2.0 liter Defender, which I owned, and a Duramax Silverado diesel, which I test drove. Dad's G80 2.5 turbo head turbo lag, but I love Euro turbos though. The 2-liter Defender. I had a Defender. There's a problem with the Defender. Here's my issue with the Defender. I was so enamored by the coolness of it and all the different stuff I had going on that I had a hard time figuring out the powertrain because I was like, oh look, it's got the weird stuff on the side, right?
The windows and the
weird, it's like that's a problem. It's like we don't always, you can't see the forest for the trees. It's yellow shiny lights. You're like, oh look at that shiny bulb. Like the good one is the Infinity QX60 or whatever Genesis with the weird shifter dial thing that spins and turns and the EV.
Oh, the G6 or GV60 with the electric car. Yeah,
it's got this really interesting like shifter thing that turns and this orb does
like
a thing.
A crystal ball.
Right, and you're so enamored by this damn crystal ball, you're like, what's the card? You just it just does not resonate until you have it for the week. You have it for a while. You get over that piece of it. But yeah, there's some vehicles that are just really, really cool that you just can't get beyond.
Yeah. A lot of mine are cars, so I'm not going to mention them.
All right, that's all you got for tonight. Hope that was entertaining. Hope that was fun. Make sure you check us on the website, pickuptrucktalk.com. As always, thanks for watching. We will see you